What's up, guys? Anthony from Hawkeye Rides. Tanner has given us a comparison between the two all-new 2021 Jaguar F-pace. One will be the SVR in the Ultra Blue. The other is the R-Dynamic S in your Santorini Black here at Jaguar St. Petersburg. All new designs, both more or less fully loaded. A difference in price is less than $10,000, give or take. Which do you choose? More horsepower and torque, or a 0 to 60 around 5 seconds? We're going to go over all the specs and details, starting now. Jaguar has changed the fascia on both. An aggressive stance with a width of 81.5 inches, a long sport hood or bonnet. The SVR will get the large vents, whereas the R-Dynamic S will just be a more traditional aerodynamic look. New double J blade signature LED lights are on both, more sleek and elegant, and it just looks prominent the way everything sets on the fascia. A wider lower air vent. The SVR is going to have more of a unique structure to it, a lower splitter here inside as well, and if you look you can see that the lower part is a little bit more aggressive, especially stressing that supercharged engine, whereas on the R-Dynamic, it's a little bit more traditional or SUV styling for the Jaguar. Height is at 65.5 inches, which is about 0.2 inches taller. Only SVR on the roster is on the F-pace, so it is something to consider, especially with the price point being as close and similar as possible. And all of the line structures, especially on the SVR, has a good outline with bold matte black outlining the fenders, encasing these 22-inch, it's a 5-spoke SVR wheel. They're gloss black with the gray inserts, or you can opt for the 22-inch wheel. It's a 15-spoke gloss black with the satin black inserts. R-Dynamics brakes is going to be 14.6 inches in the front, the rear at 12.8 inches. Comparing it to the SVR, 4 pistons are in the front, all 4 corners, 15.6 inches, so you're going to have more stopping power with that performance. Both will have a double wishbone front suspension, a multi-link rear suspension, new stiffer springs, tuned shock absorbers, revised damper control system. The R-Dynamic measures a touch shorter at 186.9 inches, both of the wheelbases at 113.2 inches, so it's enough room to enjoy and take it out on the track if you get the SVR. If you get the R-Dynamic, you can still play around with it, it's just not going to be as quick. SVR is also going to have some more styling elements, which has functional side vents, whereas the R-Dynamic S is going to have the Jaguar badging, more traditional setup, or your SUV look on the R-Dynamic S. Whereas on the SVR, you'll get the aggressive lower sills that are functional air curtains, more or less to channel the air and just help more with aerodynamics, both with the revised rear, refresh wider rear spoiler with a sleek, smaller rear window, the Jaguar badging standing out on both, and the lower bumpers is really where it's at. The SVR keeps that aggressive style with the quad exhaust outlets. You're going to have the towing package on both. The towing maxes at 5,291 pounds. With the aggressive look, you got those air vents that are functional there. It just lets the air go from the tire, so it keeps them cool, so you can just perform a little bit more. And I like the fact that in the engineering, they really thought about all the aerodynamics. You're going to get a larger side reflector also on the R-Dynamic S. It's going to be more traditional. It's going to still have a sporty look, and it's unique to the Jaguar name. However, it's going to be a little understated with a dual exhaust outlets. Both are going to have your front and rear parking sensors and a 360-degree camera. The roof rails can handle 165 pounds. Power tailgate on both, so we'll go to the SVR. Cargo starts at 31 cubic feet. Storage underneath the floor with a spare tire on both. 12-volt charger. You'll have storage on the side. The best part about the vehicle is you got a 40-20-40 split rear bench, so you can max that cargo at 31 cubic feet. But you know the best part about having a supercharge and a turbocharge next to each other? Hearing that exhaust note. Whichever Jaguar F-Pace you choose, both pack performance. The R-Dynamic S comes with a 3.0 liter inline 6-cylinder, new turbocharged and supercharged, producing 395 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. The SVR, a V8 5.0 liter supercharged, producing 550 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. Both are paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission that completes shifts in 200 milliseconds, and reprogrammed software on the SVR cuts the 0 to 60 by 0.3 seconds at 3.8 seconds, achieving 15 to 22 mpgs at top speed, 178 miles per hour. Our Dynamic S is going to achieve 20 to 26 miles per gallon and a top speed at 155 miles per hour. Let me know in the comments which F-Pace you prefer as we go into the interior, go over the tech, and take this for our test run. Entering inside the Jaguar F-Pace R Dynamic S. Headroom is going to be the same in both, at 37.8 inches, legroom at 40.3 inches. You're going to have stainless steel pedals in the SVR. So it's one thing to know, both have the heads-up display, so these are all upgrades in the system. Both will have the same dash, more or less. The SVR will have a suede insert with the contrast stitching, but I do like the setup on both because it really gives a retro and luxurious interior with the high gloss black polish on the air vent, so it really does set it apart. New also, the Pivi Pro 11.4 inch. It's a curved glass touchscreen. It replaces the old In Control Touch Pro interface, and this is out of the new Defender, so you can have your navigation with the pinch. With the swipe, both will have the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Wi-Fi hotspot, Bluetooth connectivity, British bass Meridian audio sound system, 17 speakers with wireless charging pad, dual climate control settings, Jaguar driver control, which is unique to Jaguar. That is the new gear lever right here. Another difference is the SVR will have your active exhaust note, which you heard on the exterior. Same setup in here. You'll have a 12-volt charger, and you have an area for your key fob. Cup holders, you can easily fit a 20 to near 32-ounce big gulp. Opening up in here to some more USB ports and another 12-volt, a little bit of storage. So it is pretty functional, and I also like that you have storage inside here too. So they really do maximize it. It almost gives you like a van, and yet this is an SUV. You'll have the swipe to open for your panoramic moonroof, which comes out of the Range Rover. They actually discontinued that, which is a feature that I really like. That's why I'm showing it. The elbow, soft on both sides. Leather wrap steering wheel. This is our Dynamic specific, and you got the badging. SVR will have its own badging, and the cross stitch will be in red. Paddle shifters, which are enormous, looking at that 12.3 digital gauge cluster, which is more or less fully reconfigured, and I like the fact that it's a little bit easier to operate too, because it's very self-explanatory the way the layout is. So you can maneuver it and change, making the navigation full screen or part screen, having your odometer and your tach. Door panel with the Meridian sound system inserts, memory seat for both the driver and passenger, one touch up and down for both of the front seats. Another thing to note, on the SVR, the door panel will have a little bit of a different layout with the Alcantara. Storage in the door panel, you can easily fit 2 to 3 16.9 ounce water bottles. A nice thing about the new Jaguar is they have made it where you can actually fit one of those thermals literally in the door panel and still have enough room for about two 16.9 ounce water bottles. They have a new cabin air ionization with PM 2.5 filtration, and I like the way everything is just holding you firmly and bolstered. The seats will have a little bit of a different look in the SVR. Also have the SVR badging in the headliner, whereas on the R Dynamic S, you'll just have the Jaguar badging. Let's check out the back seats. For the back seats, 37.5 inches of headroom, 37.2 inches of legroom I can fit without any issues. As you can see, this model for the R Dynamic S will be more loaded than the SVR. Dual climate control in the rear, 2 USB ports, and a 12-volt air vent. You're going to have 2 in the center, 1 on each side on the pillars. I like also how they have the opening for the front seats because it just makes it more racy feeling in the back. And you do feel kind of cocooned. The way the door panels kind of push in, it actually feels like it's against your elbow more or less a lot. It's going to be soft on both of the elbows, so that is a nice aspect. Cup holders, you can fit 20 ounce. I wouldn't go much more than that. 16.9 ounce as you heard, pretty snug. Door panel, very beefy and chunky, and I like the setup with the Meridian sound system. Again, it's going to have a little bit of a different look on the SVR. Both will have the same storage capacity, and both can still fit that flask in the rear with probably another two 16.9 ounce water bottles. You do have a storage net behind both of the front seats as well, and the floor isn't completely flat, so you don't really move around too much. But let's see how I look in the center. Sitting into the center, you do sit a little bit higher up, but headroom, no issues. Leg room, I'm grazing the back of the front seats. I will be sharing leg space and shoulder space. The good thing about the Jaguar F-Pace is if you sit 3 in the back seat, you're going to fit snug. So if you take corners, you're going to all move the same direction. But if you're only fitting 2 in the back seat, it's going to feel a lot more luxurious and sporty, especially with the air, the way it's functioning through the cabin. I mean, I can feel it all around me, and it's a really nice thing because it's super hot today in Florida. Taking the F-Pace R Dynamic S out first, 395 horsepower. This is a pretty good amount of horsepower, honestly speaking, for the size of the vehicle. Obviously, when you get 550 horsepower, it's going to be a lot more powerful. So that's why I wanted to really see how the dynamics was in this first, instead of going into the SVR and then saying, oh my God, the SVR just has so much power, because this might be enough power for you. And then, you know, you would get those savings of the $10,000-ish if that's what you're looking for. Another thing to note, 14-way power adjustments is what we have. Ventilated and heated seats, and it works really well in the heat of Florida. Today's been a very hot day, so I do like how it is nice and cool. I do wish that the SVR had the 4-way climate control settings. It does not have that in the model we have today, or in the comparison in which we're going to be doing. But for ground clearance purposes, you are high enough. The ride comfort, it does ride very comfortable, really quiet, no dual pane windows, but it just ever so lightly and easy. This is definitely more derived with luxury status, but it does have the potential to go crazy because almost 400 horsepower. So when you give it some gas, the thing is ready to rock and roll. Brakes, as you can see, they can more or less stop on a dime. So you're getting good dynamics even in the R Dynamic S. A nice thing about Jaguar is they got the push button. So when you push them, it pops up and you can change the dynamics on the fly. So you can put it on pretty much like a more sophisticated dynamic or race. You can do a comfort, you can do the eco, or you can do your rain, ice, or snow for the comfort mode settings. We're going to put it into the dynamics. We're going to see how well it performs. It's going to change the gauge cluster into red. We're going to see how it does. It does have the auto hold. I'm going to just give it a little, set you back really nice. It feels a little agile to the point where it just feels like it's ready to rock and roll. So if you're at a stop and go, the torque, you can feel it kind of vibrate you in the seat because there is a lot of power underneath this vehicle. So I do like the fact that it's ready to rock and roll if you need, and you got the luxury amenities. The seat bolstering holds you really well. The visibility out of the front, super easy. Blind spot monitoring, so you don't have to worry. You can turn your head about halfway, maybe 45 degrees, and you can see almost the whole rear because it's not that long of a vehicle. And it doesn't feel overly wide, but inside it does have a lot of space. So I do like the fact on that. With the upgraded wheels, you are feeling a little bit more stiff in the suspension at a slower speed. As you get into a higher speed, it's going to feel more airtight and a lot more smooth. All right, we're stopped in the middle of the road like we like to do. We have it in sport mode. We have it where we can engage with the paddle shifters. They are metal, giving it some go. Jaguars are just such a fun, playful vehicle. And I mean, it's definitely a fun vehicle. You got to throw the exhaust note even out of that i6 turbocharged, supercharged blend. I will note that driving through traffic, when you're coming from a stop point forward, it seems to be a little bit of a hesitation and then it just goes. So the engine is not necessarily 100% flawless, but it does an excellent job at what it needs to do, giving that much power out of something so small. We're going to check the turn radius and show you that braking again, and you can see the braking. Absolutely no problems on the vehicle. It's not as sport derived as the SVR, which you'll see, but it still does an excellent job with it. Turn radius at a stop point, I'm assuming 2.5 lanes, and we're getting actually right at 2 lanes, giving it some go at a 10-mile-an-hour speed. Livens up, gives it that throaty exhaust note. Oh man, it is super pleasurable. And it is super quiet too, so I do like the fact that you're getting the best of both worlds again. I mean, it's a quiet cabin, and that's kind of what you're looking for when you're hair under 400 horsepower. You got the torque to set you back, you got the dynamics, and you got the thrills all inside because it's a Jaguar. Another thing to show you is the dynamics. You can see it stays pretty planted. It's not as boaty as most SUVs its size. I would normally be comparing this against the BMW X3 in competition, but because we're comparing it against the SVR, really no purpose of comparing it against any other vehicle at the moment. But there is 3 things I like and 3 things that I dislike. Is anything more than that, I'd be buying this vehicle. The 3 things that I like about this particular vehicle is the elements that you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. So we're going to start off with the power adjustments in the seat. 14-way power adjustment. It is awesome. Yes, it is a premium for it. Ventilated heated seats and 4-way climate control settings. This is definitely a package that I would opt for if I was buying an F-Pace. The second thing I like about it is you're at almost 400 horsepower. It is a little bit off the line where there's some hesitation because the turbocharged and supercharged, but it's good because you're at almost 400 horsepower. The third thing that I like about it is you still get the sport dynamics. So the suspension is almost identical as the SVR. You're not going to get as much aerodynamic structure, and there's obviously some more little touches that make it more special, especially in the suspension and the way the gear change ratio is. The 3 things that I dislike about the vehicle is the fact that this is only hair under $10,000. I mean, you're almost at the point of an SVR, so you really just don't want to get an SVR, or maybe you're just trying to get a few miles per gallon more. The second thing that I dislike about the vehicle is off the line. As I have been complaining about it, when you're going off the line, it does have a little bit of a hesitation. It livens up, I would say, right around 2.5 RPM, and then it's ready to rock and roll. The third thing that I dislike about the vehicle is in the back seats. It's a little bit more cramped and tight, especially when you're coming through the door, because in the door housing, it kind of pushes you forward to get inside. But other than that, it is a pretty solid vehicle. Now let's jump into that SVR and see that comparison. In the SVR, 516 pound-feet of torque compared to 406 pound-feet of torque. So these are some other numbers to take in consideration besides the 550 horsepower V8 5.0 liter supercharged engine. I already have it in dynamic mode, which turns on the aggressive exhaust note, just turns it on for the active, so you don't have to worry in that perspective, and it just makes you feel very ready to take it on the track, to be honest. I mean, it sounds just like a sports car, which is exactly what you're looking for when you're stepping into the SVR. The thing that I do like also is the price point of the vehicle. It's under 6 figures, and you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. This particular one does kind of sadden me a little bit because they have skimped on some of the features in the rear, but this typically will happen because of the fact that, you know, people are always trying to get into that price point just right at the $90,000 price point. So if you don't need 4 climate control settings, by all means, this is the best way to go. You're going to save a few $1,000s, and you'll lose a couple of charging ports in the rear, but that's pretty much the gist of it. As for the seat settings, both of them are the same. You're going to get the 14-way power adjustment, so it is nice with that too. Ventilated seats, so I also like that. Obviously, they're heated on top of that. It's going to feel a lot more aggressive almost at every angle. So whenever you just let go of the gas and push the gas, it's ready to rock and roll. You don't feel any hesitation. The other model, the P400, felt like a turbocharged car. This one feels more naturally aspirated the way the setup is on it, and you're gonna have better braking, it's gonna have better aerodynamic structure, and it's also a lot quicker. I mean, you're about a second and a half, give or take, quicker. So I mean, when you push it, you hear that exhaust note pretty much anything over 2 RPM. All right, I got the dynamics set up where we're ready to rock and roll. I got it where we're shifting the throttle, and I also have it set where you can see the G-force, just to show you. I mean, this is insane. Like, it is so loud. That symphony that you get is unbelievable. Braking in the vehicle, as you can see, absolutely no issue either. 4-piston front brakes, not a problem. And then to check the turn radius, we're going to do it at a stop point just to show you the stopping distance and the turn radius right on point with the same. And I mean, it's lovely. It is so nice. I love that exhaust note. Super throaty and athletic, and it's very agile. As you see, dynamics, the vehicle just stays planted. You really don't have too many issues at all. When you go SVR, you're going full blown, I want a race car with an SUV attached to it, so I want a little bit more cargo, but I mean, livens up right at 2 RPMs, and that's a nice thing. If you just want to drive it settle, hit it to, you know, 1.5 RPM like your daily driver, you're not going to hear anything. It is super quiet in the cabin, even with upgraded wheels. I'm not hearing any wind noise through the wheel wells, hardly any through the windscreen as well. So they really did mask everything. Now there is 3 things that I like and 3 things that I dislike. Is anything more than that, and I'd be buying the SVR. The 3 things that I like, you obviously know that supercharged 5.0 550 horsepower engine. I just love it. The second thing that I like, on the heads-up display, when you put it in dynamic, it has a red line meter, so whenever you're giving it some gas, you can see that. With polarized glasses, however, it's hard to see. So if you see me moving around like that, it's because it's hard for me to see the heads-up display because of the polarized glasses. The third thing that I like about the vehicle is it sets up enough and it's low enough to give you all of that athletic and all of that smooth styling or drive of an SUV. The 3 things that I dislike about the vehicle, I think it should be standard 4-zone climate control when you go into the SVR. The second thing that I dislike about it is, with this type of badge, I wish it came standard also with massage seats, because a lot of the lines, once you start getting into the $80,000, $90,000 price point, whoever you're comparing it to, most of them are starting to throw in the massage seats, and some of them are even less than that. You are getting a lot of performance, so you have to kind of weigh out your pros and cons. The third thing that I dislike about the vehicle is, on some of the areas, they put harder materials or a type of material that just doesn't fit quite in this price point. Meaning, they put the Alcantara, they put nice leather, they put good seat adjustments. Obviously, you pay a premium for it. And then on certain areas, there's some plastic trim that you're just like, why did you do that? Just put it with like a leatherette or something. Like, just because of the price point that you're in, just kind of nitpicking. But for the most part, a vehicle that you can definitely drive. If I was purchasing one myself, I would definitely opt for the SVR because of the fact that you're getting so much more performance in it, and also in the exterior aesthetics, you're getting a lot more aesthetics too. Another big difference that I notice is when you're in a parking lot area, when you push the gas pedal in the SVR, you don't really have to worry. The car just kind of goes, and no issues with that. When you're doing it in the R Dynamic S or the i6 turbocharged supercharged blend, it seems to be a little bit, it'll just kind of slow down, and then you got to push the throttle, and then you're going too fast. So it's not really a happy medium. It's going to get a little bit of time to get used to that, whereas I feel in the SVR it's just more easier in this perspective of just going in and out. Both of the vehicles don't feel overly heavy, except for the turbocharged does have a little bit, like I've been saying the whole time, when you're taking off. Other than that, anything around the 2 RPM, it livens up and ready to rock and roll. The pedal's going to be obviously a lot lighter in the SVR because of how much power you have in it. Both of the dynamics are pretty solid and they do stand pretty firm. I will say that the SVR is a little bit more track drive, a little bit more able to take the corners and stay planted at all fields. And I like that you are raised up enough that you can go over any impurities. And even though it's stiffer springs, it still feels very smooth when you're going at higher speeds. When you're going at lower speeds, you will feel some of the bumps in both of the vehicles. The seats are pretty plush, so it's something that it does hold you, and it goes past the buttocks almost all the way to your kneecap area, which is something nice because some of the automotive industry kind of lacks in that, and it makes it a little bit harder, and you get more tired when you're driving on long journeys. So this one, I will say, in both of them, not just the SVR, you can drive this on a longer journey and you're not going to be as tired. With the SVR, you're getting that cover that's exposed for the engine, which is what they're known to do, and the fact that this is the last V8 SVR that Jaguar has in their roster, it is something to look at. We're going to take this back to St. Petersburg Jaguar, go over the reverse camera, and wrap this review up. Switching to reverse, you do have full trajectory, 360-degree camera. Very easy to see, as you can see all the line structures, and you also can change that so that way it lines up the toe ball, so it makes it very easy. The thing also that's nice is you can click on the cameras, so you can get a little bit more intuitive, and if you put it into forward, you can do the same thing where you can just click into the cameras, and you can also swipe over, so that way you can see any obstacles around the vehicle. I'd like to thank Tanner here at Jaguar St. Petersburg for giving us these 2021 Jaguar F-Pace, the SVR, the R-Dynamic S for our car review. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Hawkeye community. If not, click that subscribe button, check out the details of merchandise and everything we do here at Hawkeye Ride.